The morning sun peeked through the clouds as Olivia Martinez's private jet touched down at the small regional airport. After 5 years away, the 5-time Grammy winner was back in the town that had once been too small to contain her dreams. She slipped her designer sunglasses on, more out of habit than necessity in the mild spring weather. "Welcome home, Ms. Martinez," her assistant Thomas said as he held open the car door. Olivia nodded without looking at him. Home. The word felt strange after all this time. Riverdale wasn't really home anymore, just the place she'd escaped from, the place she'd promised herself she'd return to only when she was famous enough that everyone who had ever doubted her would have to acknowledge her success. Well, mission accomplished. The charity concert had been her publicist's idea. Great optics, Diane had explained. The hometown hero returns to help fund the new art center. The press will eat it up. Olivia hadn't cared much about the cause, but the timing worked with her tour schedule, and her latest album could use the publicity boost before the award season. As the car pulled up to the venue, the high school auditorium she'd once performed in as a teenager, Olivia felt a twist of something like nostalgia, quickly replaced by critical assessment. The building had been updated at least with a new facade and digital marquee that now displayed her name in bright letters. "The stage isn't big enough for the full light setup," her tour manager, Pete, said as they walked through the side entrance. "We'll need to scale back." "Unacceptable," Olivia replied, her voice sharp. "We can extend the stage. This is being recorded for my documentary, and I want it to look professional, not like some high school talent show." "But the budget, find the money." She cut him off. "Take it from the donation to the art center if you have to." Pete exchanged a look with Diane, who hurried to catch up with Olivia's brisk pace. "Let's not do that," Diane said carefully. "The whole point is to support the center. We can find another solution." Olivia sighed dramatically. "Fine, but I want the stage extended and I want my full band set up. Figure it out." The next few hours were a whirlwind of activity. Olivia's team transformed the modest auditorium, bringing in equipment, setting up lights, and rearranging the stage to her specifications. Local volunteers had been recruited to help, but Olivia barely noticed them, focused entirely on reviewing the set list with her band. "No, we're cutting Summer Rain," she told the guitarist. "The acoustics in here are terrible for the bridge section. We'll do Midnight Drive instead." "But Summer Rain is your biggest hit," he pointed out. "People will expect it. People can adjust their expectations," Olivia snapped. "I'm not compromising my sound for this venue." It was during this heated discussion that Olivia first noticed her. A woman in a gray uniform was quietly mopping the side of the stage, trying to stay out of the way of the equipment being moved around. She was humming softly to herself, the melody of Summer Rain, ironically enough. Olivia paused mid-sentence, distracted by the sound. The woman wasn't just humming. She was hitting the difficult notes perfectly, almost unconsciously as she worked. "Hey," Olivia called out sharply. "You cleaning lady." The woman looked up, startled. She appeared to be in her mid-30s with dark hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. There was nothing remarkable about her appearance except perhaps the warmth in her brown eyes, which quickly changed to alarm at being addressed directly. "Yes, ma'am?" she replied, her voice soft with a slight accent Olivia couldn't quite place. "What's your name?" Elena Santos. "You know my song." It wasn't a question, but Elena nodded anyway, a flush creeping up her neck. "Yes, I like your music. I'm sorry if I was disturbing you." "You weren't," Olivia said, studying her with new interest. "You have a good ear. You hit the high note in the chorus. Most people can't." Elena's blush deepened. "Thank you. I should get back to work." "Yeah, you should," Olivia replied, already turning her attention back to her band. But something about the woman stuck with her, the way she'd sung so naturally without even realizing she was doing it. Later that afternoon, during sound check, Olivia spotted Elena again. She was dusting the seats in the back of the auditorium while Olivia ran through her vocal exercises. When Olivia hit a particularly challenging run, she noticed Elena pause briefly, head tilted as if in appreciation. "Take 5, everyone," Olivia called out suddenly. As the band members set down their instruments and wandered off stage, she walked to the edge and looked out at Elena. "You, come here." Elena hesitated, then set down her cleaning supplies and made her way to the front of the auditorium. "You sing?" Olivia asked bluntly when Elena reached the stage. No, I mean just for myself, around the house. But you've had training. Elena shook her head. No formal training. My grandmother taught me when I was little. She used to sing in church. Olivia's eyes narrowed. This woman was either lying or completely unaware of her own talent. Either way, it irritated her somehow. Sing something for me. Elena took a step back. Oh no, I couldn't. Why not? You were singing my song earlier. Didn't think I'd notice. I was just humming. I didn't mean to. Elena's hands twisted together nervously. Something about her discomfort made Olivia push harder. Just sing the chorus of Summer Rain. You obviously know it. Elena glanced around as if looking for an escape, but several of the crew members had paused their work to watch the exchange. She took a deep breath and began to sing, her voice barely above a whisper at first, but growing slightly stronger with each word. The simple beauty of it sent an unexpected chill down Olivia's spine. Elena's voice was untrained but pure, with a natural vibrato that Olivia herself had spent years perfecting. She hit the difficult key change without effort, as if she didn't even know it was supposed to be challenging. When Elena finished, she looked at the floor, clearly uncomfortable with the attention. Where did you learn to sing like that? Olivia demanded. Elena shrugged. Nowhere. I just sing. You just sing. Olivia repeated, not bothering to hide her skepticism. And what do you do when you're not just singing? I work. Here, cleaning the school during the day. At the hospital cafeteria evenings. Sometimes I pick up weekend shifts at the grocery store. She said it matter-of-factly without self-pity. 3 jobs? Why? My daughter's starting college next fall. First one in our family to go. For the first time, a genuine smile lit up Elena's face. She got a partial scholarship, but there's still a lot to pay for. Olivia stared at her, feeling a strange mix of emotions she couldn't quite name. Before she could respond, Pete approached with a list of technical issues that needed her attention, and Elena quickly slipped away, returning to her cleaning cart. Throughout the rest of the rehearsal, Olivia found her gaze repeatedly drawn to the unassuming janitor. There was something about Elena that bothered her, not just the surprising talent, but the complete lack of ambition to do anything with it. How could someone with a voice like that be content cleaning floors? It seemed like such a waste. As evening approached and the crew began to wrap up for the day, Olivia overheard Elena speaking with an older man who appeared to be her supervisor. Can you come in early tomorrow? He was asking. The concert's sold out and they want the place spotless. Yes, of course, Elena replied. But I might need to bring Lucia with me. Her sitter canceled. Your kid? She can't be running around during setup. She's 16, Mr. Parker. She'll bring her books and stay quiet in the back. I promise, the man sighed. Fine, but keep her out of the way. As Elena thanked him and gathered her things to leave, an idea began to form in Olivia's mind. A spontaneous addition to tomorrow's concert. Something to shake things up. Something that might make for an interesting moment in her documentary. Diane, she called to her publicist. Come here. I've just had the most brilliant idea. The day of the concert arrived with a flurry of activity. Olivia woke up in her hotel suite feeling oddly restless. She'd spent half the night tweaking the set list, adding a special surprise that not even her band knew about yet. She smiled to herself as she sipped her morning coffee. Tonight's show would definitely be memorable. By noon, the high school auditorium had transformed into something almost unrecognizable. Professional lighting rigs hung from the ceiling. Smoke machines waited in the wings, and a state-of-the-art sound system had been installed overnight. Local news crews hovered outside, hoping for a glimpse of the hometown star. We're completely sold out, Diane reported, scrolling through her tablet. The mayor's coming and 3 state representatives. The local paper is calling it the biggest event in Riverdale's history. As it should be, Olivia replied, barely looking up from her phone. Did you talk to the documentary team about what I mentioned last night? Diane hesitated. About the spontaneous audience participation? Olivia, I'm not sure that's a good idea. We haven't vetted anyone and it could go really wrong. It won't go wrong. Trust me. Olivia put her phone down and fixed her publicist with a determined stare. I know exactly who I'm going to call up. It'll make for great footage. At least tell me who. You'll see tonight. Just make sure the cameras are rolling. Olivia cut her off with a wave of her hand. Where's my vocal coach? I need to warm up. As the afternoon progressed, Elena arrived with her daughter in tow, just as she'd told her supervisor. Lucia Santos was tall and lanky with the same warm brown eyes as her mother, but with a confidence Elena seemed to lack. She carried a backpack stuffed with books and a worn laptop. "Remember to stay in the back," Elena told her daughter as they entered through the service door. "Mr. Parker said you can use the small office near the janitor's closet." "Mom, I'll be fine," Lucia replied with the gentle exasperation of a teenager who had heard the same instructions many times before. "I have a history paper to finish anyway. I won't get in anyone's way." Elena watched her daughter head down the hallway, then grabbed her cleaning cart. The building was buzzing with more people than she'd ever seen here before. Sound technicians, lighting crews, security personnel, and Olivia's extensive entourage. She tried to make herself invisible as she mopped the backstage area, moving carefully around expensive equipment. As she worked her way toward the stage, she could hear Olivia rehearsing with her band one last time. The pop star's voice filled the space, powerful and precise. Elena paused briefly to listen, admiring the control Olivia had over her instrument. Years of training and experience were evident in every note. "You should be out there." Elena jumped, nearly knocking over her bucket. She turned to find a young man with a camera pointed at her. "Excuse me? The way you were just listening," he explained. "You looked like you belonged on stage, not cleaning it." He lowered his camera. "I'm Ben, part of the documentary crew following Olivia." "Elena," she replied, uncomfortable with both the camera and the comment. "And I definitely don't belong on any stage. I'm just doing my job," Ben shrugged. "If you say so. Mind if I get some background footage of the staff working? Human interest stuff." Before Elena could refuse, Olivia's voice rang out from the stage. "You, camera guy, get over here. I need you shooting from the front during this section." Ben gave Elena an apologetic smile and hurried away. She let out a relieved breath and continued with her work, making sure to stay out of sight. Hours later, as evening fell, the auditorium began to fill with excited concert-goers. Elena had finished her cleaning duties and changed into her cafeteria uniform, ready to head to her second job as soon as she collected Lucia. But as she passed the backstage area, a hand grabbed her arm. "There you are," Olivia said, already in her first costume of the night, a glittering silver dress that caught every light. "I've been looking for you." Elena blinked in surprise. "For me? Why?" "I need you to stay for the show." "I can't. I have to work at the hospital cafeteria in 20 minutes. Olivia waved dismissively. "Call in sick. This is more important, but I need the hours." "And my daughter will be fine watching the show," Olivia interrupted. She pulled out a stack of bills from a hidden pocket in her dress. "Here, this covers whatever you'd make tonight." Problem solved. Elena stared at the money, then slowly shook her head. "I appreciate it, but I can't just not show up for work. They depend on me." Something flickered across Olivia's face, irritation certainly, but also a hint of respect she didn't want to feel. "Fine. I'll have Diane call your boss. Hospital administrator, right? Trust me. When the mayor's office explains you're helping with tonight's charity event, no one will give you any trouble." She turned to her publicist, who was hovering nearby. "Diane, take care of it, and find the girl a place to watch from the wings." Before Elena could protest further, Olivia was whisked away by her styling team for final touches, and Diane was already on the phone, smoothly explaining the situation to Elena's supervisor at the hospital. "It's handled," Diane told her a few minutes later. "They said it's fine and your job will be waiting for you tomorrow. I've also had someone find your daughter. She'll join you backstage to watch the show." "But why does Ms. Martinez want me here?" Elena asked, bewildered by the turn of events. Diane's smile didn't quite reach her eyes. "Olivia likes to keep an element of surprise in her performances. Just enjoy the show." An hour later, Elena and Lucia stood in the wings, watching as Olivia commanded the stage with the confidence and presence of a born performer. The audience, filled with people Elena had known her whole life, cheered and sang along to every hit. Even Lucia, who usually preferred indie rock to pop, seemed impressed. "She's really good," she whispered to her mother. Elena nodded, caught up in the spectacle despite her confusion about why she was there. The sound was perfect, the lighting dramatic, and Olivia's voice soared through the auditorium. It was like nothing Riverdale had ever seen before. After the sixth song, Olivia paused to address the crowd. "It's good to be home," she said, her voice softening in a way it hadn't during rehearsals. "I see some faces out there I remember from way back. Teachers who told me to stop singing in class." She paused for laughter. "Classmates who heard my first terrible attempts at songwriting. People who knew me when I was just a girl with big dreams." The audience responded warmly to this display of nostalgia and vulnerability, exactly as Olivia had known they would. "But talent isn't just found in people who leave small towns to chase fame," she continued. "Sometimes it's hidden in plain sight, in the people you pass every day without really seeing." Elena felt a chill run down her spine as Olivia turned toward the wings, looking directly at her with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "In fact, I discovered an amazing voice right here yesterday. Someone who works right here in this building who probably hasn't been recognized for her gift." Olivia beckoned toward the wings. "Elena, come out here and join me." The spotlight swung toward where Elena stood frozen in horror. Lucia gave her mother a gentle push forward. "Go on, Mom," she urged. "This is amazing." Trembling, Elena stepped onto the stage, blinded by the lights and deafened by the curious murmurs of the crowd. Hundreds of eyes watched her. Neighbors, parents of Lucia's friends, her own bosses and co-workers. "This is Elena Santos," Olivia announced, putting an arm around Elena's shoulders and drawing her toward center stage. "She works as a janitor here and at the hospital and the grocery store. A hardworking mom who's never had time to develop her talent. But I heard her yesterday, and let me tell you, she's got something special." The audience applauded politely, but confusion was evident on many faces. Elena tried to step back, but Olivia's arm held her firmly in place. "So tonight I'm giving Elena a chance to show Riverdale what she can do." Olivia turned to Elena with a challenging smile. "How about it? Want to sing something for your hometown?" I can't," Elena whispered, her voice too quiet for the microphone to pick up. "Sure you can," Olivia insisted, then addressed the audience again. "Let's encourage her, Riverdale." The crowd began to cheer and clap rhythmically, putting even more pressure on Elena, who looked like she might faint at any moment. "In fact," Olivia continued, her voice taking on an edge that only Elena could detect, "I think she should try my newest single, Higher Ground. It's a challenging one, even for professional singers." She gestured to her band leader, who looked surprised but quickly cued the musicians to prepare. Olivia handed Elena her own microphone, their fingers brushing in the exchange. "Just to make it interesting," Olivia said quietly, so only Elena could hear. "Let's take it up a key." Time seemed to stop as Elena stood center stage, the microphone trembling in her hand. The spotlight burned hot against her skin, and the sea of faces before her blurred into a terrifying void. Her heart hammered so loudly in her chest she was certain the front row must hear it through the speakers. From the corner of her eye, she could see Olivia stepping back with a satisfied smile, as if she'd just delivered the perfect punchline to a joke only she understood. The band began to play the opening notes of Higher Ground, but in a key even higher than the original recording, a key that would challenge even the most skilled vocalist. Elena felt a wave of dizziness wash over her. This was a setup, a public humiliation, a chance for the hometown star to showcase her superiority by exposing Elena's inadequacy. She almost turned to flee, but then caught sight of Lucia in the wings, her daughter's face shining with unexpected pride and excitement. "You can do this, Mom," Lucia mouthed, giving her a thumbs up. In that moment, something shifted inside Elena. Not confidence exactly, but a quiet determination. How many times had she told Lucia to be brave, to stand tall, to never let fear stop her from trying? What kind of example would she be setting if she ran away now? The introduction was ending. It was time to sing or surrender. Elena closed her eyes, shut out the crowd, the lights, and especially Olivia's smirking face. Instead, she pictured her small kitchen at home, where she sang while cooking dinner. She thought of her grandmother who had taught her old folk songs from her homeland. She remembered the lullabies she used to sing to Lucia when she was small. When Elena opened her mouth, the first note came out as little more than a whisper, barely audible over the band. A few people in the audience exchanged uncomfortable glances. Olivia's smile widened slightly. But then Elena took a deep breath, anchored her feet to the floor as if drawing strength from the ground itself, and let her voice rise. The second phrase came out stronger, clearer, with a richness that seemed to surprise even the band members who exchanged quick glances. By the time she reached the pre-chorus, Elena's voice had found its footing. It wasn't polished like Olivia's. There was no perfect technique or years of training behind it. Instead, there was something raw and authentic, a natural talent shaped by years of singing purely for the joy of it. The higher key that Olivia had maliciously chosen actually suited Elena's range perfectly. Where most singers would strain, her voice soared effortlessly, cutting through the auditorium with surprising power for someone of her small stature. When she hit the chorus, a visible ripple went through the audience. Phone lights began to appear as people started recording. On the side of the stage, Olivia's smile had vanished, replaced by an expression of disbelief that the documentary cameras captured in perfect detail. Elena kept her eyes closed through most of the song, too afraid to see the audience's reaction. But as she approached the bridge, the most technically challenging part, she finally looked up. Instead of ridicule, she saw hundreds of stunned faces staring back at her. In the front row, the mayor was leaning forward in his seat. Near the back, she spotted her supervisor from the hospital with his mouth hanging slightly open. The bridge of higher ground was famous for its difficult runs and key change. Professional singers often modified it to make it more manageable. But Elena, not knowing any better, sang it exactly as written, her untrained voice finding a natural path through the complicated melody. What she lacked in technique, she made up for in pure, unfiltered emotion. As the song built to its climax, Elena felt something she'd never experienced before, the energy of an audience completely in her thrall. The fear that had gripped her just minutes ago transformed into a strange euphoria. For the first time in her life, she wasn't thinking about bills to pay or shifts to cover. She was simply present, alive in the music in a way she'd never allowed herself to be. The final note of the song was meant to be held for 8 counts, a test of breath control that many singers shortened. Elena held it for 12, her voice unwavering, before finally letting it fade into a perfect, gentle vibrato. For 2 heartbeats after she finished, there was complete silence. Then the auditorium erupted. People leapt to their feet, applause thundering through the space. Whistles and cheers echoed off the walls. In the wings, Lucia was jumping up and down, tears streaming down her face. Elena stood frozen in shock, the microphone still clutched in her hand, unable to process what was happening. The band, caught up in the moment, started playing an extended outro, giving the audience more time to express their appreciation. It was Diane who finally moved first, rushing onto the stage to stand beside Elena. "Take a bow," she whispered urgently, placing a hand on Elena's back to guide her. Elena dipped awkwardly, which only made the crowd cheer louder. When she straightened, she found herself face to face with Olivia, who had stepped back into the spotlight. The pop star's expression was unreadable, a complex mix of emotions flickering behind her professional smile. "Well," Olivia said into her backup microphone, her voice slightly strained, "wasn't that something special?" Let's hear it again for Elena Santos, Riverdale's hidden gem. Another round of applause washed over them. Elena tried to hand the microphone back to Olivia, eager to escape the stage. But Olivia shook her head almost imperceptibly. "Tell us." "Elena," she continued, her tone falsely bright, "where did you learn to sing like that?" The microphone was suddenly back in front of Elena's face. The audience quieted, curious to hear her response. "I didn't," Elena said simply, her voice soft but now carried clearly through the sound system. "I just sing to my daughter, and to myself." A murmur ran through the crowd. Olivia's smile tightened. "Well, you've been hiding quite a gift," she said. "Maybe I should be worried about my job." She gave a practiced laugh that most of the audience returned, but the cameras caught the tension in her jaw. Elena shook her head. No, I could never do what you do. This was just luck." "Luck had nothing to do with it," came a deep voice from the side of the stage. A tall man in an expensive suit walked into the spotlight. Thomas Chen, founder of Starlight Records and one of the most powerful music producers in the industry. He'd come to the concert as a personal favor to Olivia, whose contract with his label was up for renewal. "That was pure talent," he continued, taking Elena's free hand in both of his. "Raw and untrained, but absolutely genuine. I haven't heard anything like it in years." The audience broke into excited whispers. Everyone in town knew who Thomas Chen was. His presence at the concert had been featured in the local paper for days. Olivia's face had gone pale beneath her makeup. This was not how the evening was supposed to unfold. Her surprise moment, her chance to showcase her generosity while subtly emphasizing her superiority, had spun completely out of her control. "Tom," she said with forced casualness, "I didn't realize you were here already. I thought you were coming backstage after the show." "I wouldn't have missed this for the world," he replied without taking his eyes off Elena. "Ms. Santos, I'd like to speak with you after the concert. If you have a moment," Elena nodded numbly, still trying to process everything happening around her. "Wonderful," Thomas said, then addressed the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, remember this night. You just witnessed something truly special." He turned to Olivia with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Olivia, thank you for introducing us to this remarkable talent." What a generous gesture. With that, he stepped back, melting into the wings as smoothly as he had appeared. An awkward silence fell over the stage. The audience, sensing the tension, began to shift uncomfortably in their seats. It was Diane who saved the moment, hurrying forward to escort Elena off stage while addressing the crowd. "Let's give Elena another round of applause. And now back to our star of the night, the one and only Olivia Martinez." The band immediately launched into Olivia's next hit song, forcing her to snap back into performance mode. She recovered quickly, her professional training taking over as she began to sing. But those closest to the stage noticed that for the first time in her career, Olivia Martinez seemed rattled, her eyes occasionally darting to the wings where Elena stood in shocked silence, surrounded by buzzing crew members and one beaming teenage daughter who couldn't stop hugging her. "Mom," Lucia whispered fiercely in her ear, "you were amazing. I had no idea you could sing like that. Why didn't you ever tell me?" Elena shook her head slightly, still dazed. "I didn't know," she whispered back. "I just sang." Backstage was chaos. Crew members who had barely noticed Elena that morning were suddenly offering her water bottles and asking if she needed anything. The documentary team had split in two, half staying with Olivia as planned, the other half now following Elena with their cameras, capturing every stunned reaction and congratulatory handshake. "Mom, your phone is blowing up," Lucia said, holding up Elena's old flip phone. "Mrs. Rodriguez from next door keeps calling. And so is Uncle Paul." Elena could barely register what her daughter was saying. Her ears were still ringing, her heart racing. The rush of performing had left her system, replaced by a creeping anxiety. What had she done? What would people think? She'd never sought attention, had always been content to blend into the background of Riverdale life. "Miss Santos," a voice cut through her thoughts. "If I could have a moment." Thomas Chen had appeared beside her, flanked by two assistants who were furiously typing on their phones. "The second half of the concert is underway," he continued. "Perhaps we could talk somewhere quieter." Elena looked around helplessly. I'm not supposed to leave. Ms. Martinez wanted me to stay until the end." Thomas's expression softened slightly. "I'm sure Olivia won't mind if you step away briefly. My car's outside. We can speak there and be back before the finale." "Can my daughter come?" Elena asked, reaching for Lucia's hand. "Of course." Thomas nodded to one of his assistants, who immediately began guiding them through the backstage area toward a side exit. As they passed a monitor showing the main stage, Elena caught a glimpse of Olivia performing. The pop star was hitting every note perfectly, her choreography flawless, but there was a tightness around her eyes that hadn't been there before. Outside, the cool night air was a welcome relief from the stuffy backstage area. A sleek black car with tinted windows waited in the small parking lot reserved for performers. "Please," Thomas said, opening the door for them. Inside, the car was more spacious than it appeared from the outside, with soft leather seats and a privacy barrier between them and the driver. Elena sat uncomfortably on the edge of the seat, her cafeteria uniform looking especially out of place in such luxurious surroundings. Lucia, less intimidated, settled in beside her, eyes wide with excitement. "Ms. Santos," Thomas began. "What happened in that auditorium tonight was extraordinary." Elena shook her head. "It was just luck. The band was so good they made me sound better than I am." "No," Thomas said firmly. "I've been in this business for 30 years. I've heard thousands of singers. What you have is rare, a natural gift that no amount of training can create." He leaned forward. "Tell me, have you ever considered a career in music?" A startled laugh escaped Elena's lips. "A career? No, never. I have 3 jobs already. Jobs that would pale in comparison to what you could earn with a voice like yours. Lucia squeezed her mother's arm. See, Mom? I told you that you should sing more. Thomas smiled at the teenager. Your mother has what we call in the industry star quality. It's not just the voice, it's the authenticity, the emotional connection. You can't teach that. Mr. Chen, Elena said carefully, I think you're being very kind, but I'm not looking for this kind of thing. I have responsibilities. My daughter is starting college next year. Which college? Thomas asked. State University, Lucia answered proudly. I got a partial scholarship for engineering. Thomas nodded thoughtfully. A fine school. Expensive, though, even with a scholarship. We'll manage, Elena said, a touch of defensiveness in her voice. We always have. I have no doubt, Thomas replied. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card. But I'd like to offer you an opportunity. Not a record deal, not yet, but a chance to explore your potential. Elena took the card hesitantly. I have a studio in the city, Thomas continued. I'd like you to come in for a professional recording session. No obligations, no contracts. Just to see what you're capable of with proper backing and production. We can work around your schedule. Why would you do that? Elena asked, suspicion creeping into her voice. What's in it for you? Thomas smiled. Let's call it an investment in potential. And honestly, it's refreshing to encounter genuine talent that isn't packaged in ego and ambition. He glanced at his watch. We should head back. I believe Olivia will be finishing her set soon. As they walked back toward the auditorium, they could hear the muffled sound of applause. The concert was indeed ending. But something else was happening too. A crowd had gathered around the stage door far larger than would be expected for a small-town venue. What's going on? Elena asked, pulling Lucia closer to her side. One of Thomas's assistants, who had been constantly checking her phone, leaned in to whisper something in his ear. He raised his eyebrows, then turned to Elena with an expression of amused surprise. It seems your performance has gone viral. Ms. Santos, someone in the audience streamed it live, and it's already been shared thousands of times. What? Elena stopped walking. But how? It just happened. Welcome to the digital age, Thomas said. News travels faster than sound these days. As they approached the crowd, people began to notice Elena. Whispers turned to exclamations, and suddenly everyone was turning toward her. Phones raised to capture her image. It's her. That's the janitor who sang. Elena, over here! Lucia gripped her mother's hand tightly as the crowd pressed closer. Thomas signaled to his security team, who quickly formed a protective barrier around them. This way, he directed, guiding them through a different entrance. Let's avoid the crowd for now. Back inside, the situation was equally chaotic. Local reporters who had come to cover Olivia's homecoming were now trying to find Elena for interviews. The high school principal was fielding calls from news outlets. Diane was running between the stage and her phone, looking increasingly frazzled. When they reached the backstage area, Olivia was just coming off stage from her final bow, surrounded by her team. Her eyes immediately locked onto Elena, her expression unreadable. There you are, she said coolly. I was beginning to think you'd run off with my producer. Ms. Martinez, Elena began, I want to thank you for... Save it, Olivia cut her off, then forced a smile as she noticed Thomas watching. We'll talk later. I have a meet and greet to attend. As Olivia brushed past them, Elena caught a glimpse of the pop star's phone in her hand. On the screen was a social media feed filled with videos titled Unknown Janitor Outshines Olivia Martinez and Hometown Star Upstaged by Cleaning Lady. Don't mind her, Thomas said quietly. This wasn't quite what she had planned for her triumphant return. Diane approached them looking harried. Elena, I'm so sorry, but there are reporters asking for you. We didn't anticipate this. Do you want to speak with them or should I send them away? Before Elena could answer, the stage manager appeared. Mrs. Santos, your phone keeps ringing in the break room. Someone named Dr. Patel says it's urgent. That's my boss at the hospital, Elena said, alarm rising in her voice. I need to take that call. Use my office, the principal offered, appearing beside them. It's private. Go, Thomas told her. We'll handle things here. And don't worry about the reporters. You don't owe them anything tonight. Elena nodded gratefully and hurried away with Lucia. As soon as they were alone in the small office, she collapsed into the chair behind the desk. Mom, Lucia said, her eyes wide. What's happening? I don't know, sweetheart, Elena answered honestly. I think I'm in shock. Her phone rang again and she answered it with trembling hands. Hello, Dr. Patel? Elena! The hospital administrator sounded uncharacteristically excited. I just saw a video of you singing at the concert. Why didn't you tell us you had such talent? The entire cafeteria staff is watching it now. I'm sorry, Elena said automatically. It wasn't planned. I hope it won't affect my job. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Affect your job? Elena, we're proud to have you as part of our team. In fact, I was calling to see if you'd consider performing at our hospital fundraiser next month. We usually hire entertainment, but having a local sensation would be wonderful publicity. Elena's mind spun. I'll think about it. Thank you. As she hung up, Lucia was scrolling through something on her own phone, her expression growing increasingly amazed. Mom, she whispered, you're trending on TikTok and Twitter, and there's already a fan page for you on Facebook with thousands of followers. Elena shook her head in disbelief. This is crazy. It will all blow over by tomorrow. Things like this don't happen to people like us. A soft knock on the door interrupted them. It was Ben, the documentary cameraman who had spoken to Elena earlier that day. Sorry to bother you, he said, but I thought you should see this. It's footage we captured of Olivia yesterday planning tonight's surprise. He held out a tablet. On the screen was Olivia, speaking candidly to Diane in what she thought was a private moment. It'll be perfect, Olivia was saying. We'll put her on the spot. Let her embarrass herself a little, then I'll step in and save the day. Everyone will talk about how generous I am, giving the poor cleaning lady her moment in the spotlight. It's the perfect narrative for the documentary. Diane's voice came from off-camera. And if she actually can sing? Olivia laughed dismissively. Please, I heard her humming. She's barely mediocre. And even if she doesn't completely bomb, I'll look even better standing next to an amateur. It's win-win. Ben stopped the video. I thought you should know. Olivia set you up to fail, but you did the opposite. Elena stared at the frozen image of Olivia on the screen, her stomach churning with a mixture of hurt and anger. She had suspected as much, but hearing it confirmed was still painful. Why are you showing me this? She asked quietly. Ben shrugged. Because it's the truth. And because Thomas Chen asked me to make sure you understand what really happened tonight. He tucked the tablet under his arm. For what it's worth, I think you just changed your life. After he left, Elena and Lucia sat in silence for a long moment. Mom, Lucia finally said. What do we do now? Elena looked at her daughter, her brilliant, hard-working daughter who deserved every opportunity that life could offer. She thought about the stack of bills waiting at home, the college tuition payments looming on the horizon, the endless cycle of work that had defined her existence for so long. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out Thomas Chen's business card, turning it over in her fingers thoughtfully. I think, she said slowly, we might need to make some room in our schedule for a trip to the city. 3 months passed in a whirlwind Elena could scarcely believe was her life. The modest apartment she shared with Lucia looked the same. The faded couch still sagged in the middle. The kitchen cabinet still needed new hinges, but nearly everything else had changed. The first trip to Thomas Chen's studio in the city had turned into weekly sessions. Elena had initially tried to maintain all 3 of her jobs, stubbornly clinging to the security of her old routine. But after she kept falling asleep during recordings, Thomas had intervened. You can't pour from an empty cup, he told her. I'm offering you an advance, enough to cover your bills for 6 months while we develop your sound. If nothing comes of it, you go back to your jobs with no debt to me. But you need to give this a real chance. With Lucia's encouragement, Elena had reluctantly agreed. She kept her morning job at the high school, partly for stability, partly because she genuinely liked her co-workers, but gave notice at the hospital and grocery store. The extra time allowed her to focus on learning the fundamentals of music she'd never been taught. Proper breathing techniques, how to read sheet music, vocal exercises to strengthen her range. The single Thomas produced with her, a soulful ballad called Hidden Places, had been released with little fanfare but quickly gained traction on streaming platforms. Music critics praised its authenticity in a landscape of overproduced pop, a voice that feels like coming home, one reviewer wrote. Life had settled into a new rhythm, different, exciting, but not the overwhelming tidal wave of attention Elena had feared. Thomas had protected her from the more predatory aspects of sudden fame, turning down reality TV offers and invasive interview requests. He'd helped her build a small but dedicated team who respected her desire to keep her life in Riverdale. This morning, Elena sat at her kitchen table reviewing the contract for her upcoming appearance at a respected music festival. Beside it lay Lucia's orientation schedule for State University, where she would begin classes in just a few weeks. Thanks to Elena's advance from Starlight Records, they no longer needed to worry about the remaining tuition balance. "Mom," Lucia called from her bedroom. "Have you seen the interview? It's everywhere online." Elena looked up as her daughter bounded into the kitchen, laptop in hand. "What interview?" "Olivia Martinez. On the morning mix, she talked about you." Elena's stomach tightened. Since the night of the concert, she and Olivia had maintained a careful distance from each other. The documentary about Olivia's homecoming had been quietly shelved, though certain clips, particularly Elena's performance, continued to circulate online. Olivia had completed her tour and retreated to her Malibu home to work on new material, according to the gossip sites Lucia occasionally read. "What did she say?" Elena asked cautiously. Lucia placed the laptop on the table and pressed play on a video. Olivia appeared on screen looking more casual than Elena remembered her. Less makeup, simpler clothes, her hair pulled back in a loose ponytail. She sat across from a talk show host Elena recognized but couldn't name. "So," the host was saying, "we have to talk about what everyone calls the Elena moment. It's been 3 months since that video went viral. Have you two spoken since then?" Olivia's smile faltered slightly. "No, we haven't, not directly. Many people saw that as a turning point in your career. The night Olivia Martinez got upstaged in her own hometown. How did that feel?" Elena winced at the bluntness of the question. She expected to see a flash of the old Olivia, defensive, perhaps even hostile. Instead, Olivia was quiet for a moment before answering. "It was a wake-up call," she said finally. "And honestly, one I needed." The host looked surprised. "Can you elaborate on that?" "I'd been going through the motions for a while," Olivia continued, her voice softer than Elena had ever heard it. "Hitting the notes, putting on the show, but somewhere along the way, I'd lost touch with why I started making music in the first place. When I heard Elena sing that night, really sing, from her soul, it reminded me of something I'd forgotten." Elena stared at the screen, hardly believing what she was hearing. "Would you say you were trying to humiliate her that night?" The host pressed. Olivia didn't immediately deny it, which surprised Elena even more. I think I was trying to make myself feel better by reminding everyone in that town who the real star was. It wasn't my finest moment." She gave a small, self-deprecating laugh. "Obviously, it backfired spectacularly. And now she's signed with Thomas Chen, your former producer. He has an eye for talent," Olivia acknowledged. "And an ear. Elena deserves this chance." The host leaned forward. "So there's no bad blood between you two? No rivalry?" "Not from my side," Olivia said. "In fact," she hesitated, then seemed to make up her mind about something. "I've actually been trying to reach out to her. I owe her an apology at the very least." Lucia paused the video. "Mom, did you know about this? Has she been trying to contact you?" Elena shook her head slowly. "No, I hadn't heard anything." Then she remembered the messages her new assistant had mentioned, calls from Olivia's team that Elena had assumed were publicity-related and had instructed to politely decline before she could explain this to Lucia. Her phone rang. It was Thomas. "I'm guessing you've seen the interview," he said without preamble when she answered. "Just now," Elena confirmed. "Is it?" "Do you think she's being genuine?" Thomas sighed. "With Olivia, it's hard to tell. But from what I know, she's been through some changes lately. Parted ways with her management team, took a break from social media. She's been working with some respected songwriters in Nashville instead of her usual pop collaborators. Why would she want to talk to me now?" Elena wondered aloud. "That's for you to decide if you want to find out," Thomas replied. "But actually, that's not why I'm calling. We've been invited to participate in a benefit concert next month for the university arts program in your hometown." Elena could see where this was headed. "And let me guess, Olivia is involved?" "She's hosting it. But before you say no, hear me out. It's a good cause, one that matters to your community. You'd only need to perform one song. And I'd be there the whole time. Elena glanced at Lucia, who was watching her with undisguised interest. Can I think about it? Of course, but not too long. They need to finalize the lineup by the end of the week. After hanging up, Elena explained the situation to Lucia. You should do it, her daughter said immediately. It's for a good cause. And besides, aren't you even a little curious about what she wants to say to you? Elena had to admit she was. Despite everything, she couldn't quite bring herself to hate Olivia. The night that had changed Elena's life had been born from Olivia's cruelty, yes, but it had led to opportunities Elena would never have sought out on her own. I'll think about it, she promised Lucia. 2 weeks later, Elena found herself back in the same high school auditorium, though it felt like returning to a different planet. This time she had her own dressing room, her own small team helping with her hair and makeup, and her own name on the program. The benefit concert had sold out within hours of being announced. The university had set up an overflow area with screens outside for those who couldn't get tickets. Local businesses had created special Elena and Olivia-themed items for the occasion, with proceeds going to the arts program. Elena was scheduled to perform just before Olivia closed the show. As she waited backstage, she tried to steady her nerves by running through the vocal exercises her coach had taught her. She was so focused that she didn't notice someone entering the room until a soft voice spoke. Your warm-up technique has improved. Elena turned to find Olivia standing in the doorway, looking much as she had in the interview, simpler, softer somehow, though still undeniably glamorous. May I come in? Olivia asked when Elena didn't immediately respond. Elena nodded, suddenly conscious of their reversed positions. Now she was the one with the dressing room, the one preparing to perform. Olivia closed the door behind her and took a deep breath. First, I want to say that you don't owe me anything. Not your time, not forgiveness, nothing. What I did that night it was cruel and petty. Why did you do it? Elena asked, the question that had lingered in her mind for months. Olivia's shoulders slumped slightly. Because I was scared. I'd been feeling like a fraud for months, maybe years, always wondering if I deserved the success, if I was really special or just lucky. When I heard you singing that day so naturally, with no training and no ambition, just pure joy, it terrified me. I wanted to prove you weren't special. Instead, I ended up proving that you were. The honesty in Olivia's voice caught Elena off guard. She had expected excuses, perhaps even a performance of remorse, but not this raw vulnerability. I've spent 3 months thinking about that night, Olivia continued, about who I've become. It wasn't pretty. She gave a small, sad smile. But it was necessary. So thank you in a way. I should be thanking you, Elena said quietly. Despite your intentions, that night changed my life. Gave Lucia opportunities I never could have provided otherwise. Olivia shook her head. Don't give me credit I don't deserve. You did that. With your voice and your heart. I was just the catalyst. A stagehand knocked on the door. 5 minutes, Ms. Santos. When they were alone again, Olivia reached into her bag and pulled out a small wrapped package. I brought you something. A peace offering, I guess, though it's not nearly enough. Elena unwrapped it carefully to find a vintage vinyl record. Ella Fitzgerald's Pure Ella. My grandmother used to play this for me when I was first learning to sing, Olivia explained, before the coaches and the technique and the industry, when it was just about the joy of it. I thought maybe you'd appreciate it. Elena ran her fingers over the worn cover, touched by the personal nature of the gift. Thank you. Another knock at the door. 2 minutes. Olivia stood to leave. I should let you prepare. She paused at the door. Elena, for what it's worth, I really am sorry. I believe you, Elena replied, surprised to find that she meant it. After Olivia left, Elena took a moment to center herself before heading to the stage. The audience erupted when she appeared, their cheers even louder than they had been 3 months ago. As she prepared to sing, Elena caught sight of Lucia in the front row, sitting beside Thomas Chen and, surprisingly, Elena's former supervisor from the hospital. In the wings, she could see Olivia watching, no longer with jealousy but with what looked like genuine interest. Elena took a deep breath and began to sing, not Olivia's song this time, but her own. A song about unexpected journeys and second chances, about finding your voice when you least expect it. about how sometimes the moments that seem designed to break you are the very ones that help you discover your strength. When she finished, the applause was deafening. As she took her bow, Elena realized that somewhere along the way the stage had stopped feeling foreign. It had become another place she belonged, not instead of her old life, but alongside it. A new room in the house of who she was. Later, after Olivia's performance, the two women stood together for photos. Awkward at first, but gradually finding a tentative ease with each other. When a reporter asked if they might collaborate in the future, Elena expected Olivia to dismiss the idea. Instead, Olivia glanced at her with a questioning look. "I'd be honored," she said, "if Elena would be willing." "Maybe," Elena replied with a small smile, "for the right song." As the evening wound down, Elena found herself standing at the edge of the stage, looking out at the empty auditorium. 3 months ago, she'd been cleaning these floors. Now she was headlining concerts on them. Life could change in an instant, she knew that now. The key was to change with it while holding on to what mattered most. "Ready to go home, Mom?" Lucia asked, appearing beside her with Elena's coat. Elena put her arm around her daughter's shoulders. "Definitely. Tomorrow's a big day." They would be driving Lucia to college in the morning, the beginning of yet another new chapter. But tonight they would go back to their apartment, sit on their sagging couch, and simply be mother and daughter as they had always been. Some things changed. The best things stayed the same.